parts of, if you ever listen to Misfit podcasts, is they have like an opening section that they call Snack Chat, where they're literally just like, hey, what was like the one thing this week that you just like food wise that you went bonkers on? And just, and it could be anything. It could be anything from like one of them at one point was like, they'll give like a crumble cookie review because they're like, here's the crumble cookies for the week and here's how they go. And then like Drew will be like, oh, I just ate a whole bag of cheese and that was great. It'll be like I was on vacation and ate 24 s'mores. It like, it's just stuff that like normal life stuff. You're like, hey, I had a day I was with my kids and I had a 7-foot tall ice cream and it was amazing. So for those of you just tuning in, Sam was telling us about some phenomenal cookies that he's got.
These cookies.
It doesn't sound like a problem to me, Sam. It sounds ideal, if we're being honest.
You know what's a problem is the fact that we've made and consumed 3 batches of them in the 10 days that I've been here. So
you consume 3 how big is a batch? What defines, is there like a set number of cookies or is it just like whatever the recipe makes, how big of balls you mush?
It's if I would have to guess, it's like 20 to 30 cookies per batch.
Oh, so you're at like 90 cookies. I was sitting like, oh, a batch is 12, 36 cookies, 10 days. That's 3 per day for the whole plant. Easy. Nope, 90 cookies. All right. I so much more. You're gonna be so fucking
well. Strong. So we're splitting them amongst a bunch of people, right? So there's myself, my wife, my father and mother-in-law, and then my oldest son. So it's 5 humans.
Yeah.
I would wager across the entire trip, it's been more like 3 cookies a day. And I know that I am not. There's a little baby fawn, a deer, just like eating bushes, like right outside the window here. That's awesome. I would wager that I have consumed less than other people.
Oh, I'm sure.
But still.
Listen, you're going to be so recovered, and you're going to be so like glycogen stores topped off, baby. That
ready to go.
The barbell sitting in your garage right now does not stand a single chance.
Doesn't know what's going to hit it.
Nope, not at all. It's like I'm not ready for the amount of weight that Sam's going to move, the amount of mass we're going to have that ass. That Oh yeah.
Well, so welcome back to the Talking Average Fitness podcast, everybody. Where, as already indicated, my name is Sam Burns. I'm joined, as always, by the eminent Mr. Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, how are you today, sir?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, Sam. How are you doing?
Doing wonderful. We're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is being a nerd. And then your favorite topic, which is programming. So full disclosure, right? I want to say this at the beginning of this episode. We're 3 minutes in, so we won't have wasted too much of anybody's time.
Yep.
This is going to be a non-traditional episode. This is going to be a very, sometimes you could say that we go down the rabbit hole on a bunch of this stuff. Right.
1,000%.
This is different. This is really far down the rabbit hole. So what we're going to do is we have talked previously about what good programming, quote unquote, or bad programming, quote unquote, can look like. Mm-hmm. And really how there is no good or bad programming. There's programming that is more or less varied or more or less adherent as much as possible to the CrossFit methodology. And when we talk about that stuff, we can make those claims because we do programming analysis. So we will sit down, we'll look at a body of programming, and we'll quantize it, quantitatively assess how much of this, that, or the other thing that we are doing.
Yep.
And then we will make an assessment, right? Now, what's fun about this for us is that's not to say that we ignore the art of programming, right? We can look at the numbers and a body of work, and we can learn a lot of stuff, but we can also have a lot of fun with this. And this is going to be fun for us, I'm sure. But if anyone doesn't want to listen to us walk through at least 7 days of programming at Kevin's affiliate, Tilton, Sudbury, Mass, then this is your chance to pull the ripcord and GTFO, right?
Yeah, we'll see next week.
Exactly. Yeah, and like, no judgment,
Yep.
Just press skip. But if you stick around, you got nothing to complain about because we've warned you, right?
Exactly.
All right. So what I would like to do is I would love, Kevin, for you to, can you press present and like share a tab or whatever?
Yeah.
Is that an option you have?
I think so.
Along the bottom bar?
Share screen.
It's going to be interesting to watch him figure this out in real time.
Yep. No, I got it. There we go. I nailed it.
There we go.
Look at it.
I'm ready. Okay. Let me see it.
Can you see it?
Nope.
Okay. Now can you see it?
Oh, there we go.
I'm sorry. There we go. Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
we'll do it like that.
Yeah. Cool. So here's the deal. Now, we talk a lot about like we're coaches and we do the coaching thing. I've also semi-recently, I guess, probably 5-6 months or so ish. I've also taken over the role of head programmer at CrossFit Tilt. So I program for the program that I write. All of our affiliates do. So I'm in charge of a lot of people's fitness, and I have a whole lot of fun. Yes, sir.
I don't think a lot of people. There might be some people who know. Yeah. How many affiliates are we talking about, and roughly how many members total across all the affiliates, including the more recent foray into other affiliates as well?
Yeah. So CrossFit New England still does their own deal. They're like on their own different programming, different, Tilt is operating or helping operate and run managements and the whole thing. And that's I don't know enough details about that to go into anything there. But they're running their own program and programming things. So I'm not involved with that. But we have 3 community gyms and 1 corporate gym that all follow this programming. The corporate gym, I'm not entirely sure in terms of how many members they've got there, how many people they work with, but they run a full, essentially affiliate schedule. They got 2 full-time coaches over there running the show. And then we've got 3 community gyms, which are open to the public in Sudbury, Southborough, and Waltham. And all put together total is probably somewhere in like the mid to high 500s, approaching 600 members, depending on, the month and time of day and which direction the wind is blowing and all that. So somewhere mid to high 500s in terms of total members.
So that's something that's really, really important to highlight, because we're not programming for just one gym. We're not like, this isn't customized for our members or anything like that. Like, Kevin can't actually know all of those people, right? So he's got to program for the general population, right?
Yep. And each gym is, just by the nature of, we know this for affiliates, each gym is, quite different in terms of the population, average age, what they're looking for, how they go, like our Waltham gym, they have a lot of people over there. They're like, put the eye black on, it's time to go to war. But not every gym is like that. Our Southborough and Sudbury gyms are like, these people, they work hard, they're getting after it, but they're not, putting on the war paint day in, day out, let's hurt myself type thing.
Right.
So everyone's got varying levels of what they're looking for. But as coaches and as a programmer, like, I know what works first and foremost is, we've talked about this 5 bajillion times, is variance. Number one key to everything. And so one thing that we used to do when Max was doing the programming here at Tilt is he would pull workouts from CrossFit.com every once in a while.
Yep.
But for me, I keep a pretty close eye on CrossFit.com, and I'll pull workouts, I'll tweak workouts, I'll take things and move, just because there's such a great expression of variance there that helps me, and we've talked about this as well, it helps me eliminate my own personal bias. Because if anyone's going to be programming anything, my personal biases will start to creep in. So if I'm just writing everything week by week, guess what we're doing, homies? We're doing wall balls, we're doing rowing, and not myself.
And not squatting heavy.
Exactly. The best. You're never going to see another thrusters because fuck thrusters.
Because fuck thrusters, yeah.
Exactly. Even though thrusters and wall balls are the same movement.
They are 100% same movement. It's still so much worse with a barbell.
Man, I heard, again, like keep giving, the Misfits a shout out. I was listening to a podcast and Drew was talking about like competitive athletes. And he's like, I hate when people say they hate a movement. And he was like people say like, oh, I'm bad at thrusters or I hate thrusters. And he's like, well, are you strong? And they're like,
right.
Yeah. And he's like, are you fit? Yeah. What the fuck's the problem? And I'm like, listen, right. Shut up. They suck.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Hit me with the logic like that. Shut up. But yes, like my own personal biases will come into stuff that I like to do. And so I really tend to not always like just kind of like copypaste.com, but like I'll take ideas, thoughts, templates. There are some times I'll just like, that workout's fucking amazing. It's going right there and we're going to get some. So there are times that happens. So I do pull workouts from .com, but like keeping an eye on it in terms of the structure, the patterns, the themes that go along with there can help me as I'm programming, like, stay away from or, direct me away from my personal biases. Sure. So we're going to dive into basically this is the week of August 7th, Monday, August 7th, and we're going to analyze that week. And we're fully like, I expect Sam and myself to nerd out, look at all the bits and pieces. Like as we're having this conversation, workouts may change. Like it always helps to have an extra pair of eyes and I trust Sam incredibly. So if he says, hey, this is stupid, I might ask him why it's stupid. Is it because there's thrusters in it and you don't like them? So we'll start things off on Monday, the 7th. We've got workout 21, 18, 15, 12, 9, 6, 3 of sumo deadlift high pull at 95 pounds for gentlemen, 65 for ladies, and a box jump over 24, 20 inches. Thoughts?
Right now, so a lot of volume. So real quick off the top of your head, do you know what a 21 down to 3 totals out to?
84
reps, right? So my only concern, if I'm looking at this as a coach, like I see sumo deadlift high pull, the first thing I'm thinking of is rounding in the spine and like loss of position, because even though it's one of the 9 foundational movements, it's not often enough something that people are exposed to. And so I look at this and I think there's 84 reps of a movement that's like if you popped in 84 pistols, right? Like almost certainly there are people who can do that kind of thing because they might do lunges regularly, right? But a pistol is not a lunge. And so I'm thinking, like, the first thing I'm thinking is like, okay, how am I going to scale athletes? How am I going to quantify how this should feel, right? I'm also looking at movement patterns, like movement functions. So I'm thinking hinge pull for the sumo deadlift high pull. I'm thinking it's a hinge in a different direction. So it's a concentric versus eccentric hinge. And then in my brain, I classified jumps because jumps have a very specific aerobic feeling, and there's an explosive nature to jumps, right? So athletes who have, like myself, who have knee issues, jumping is even just like little itty bitty jumps, like in jump rope. The amount of energy you are transferring through your knee is way more than that of, say, a heavy squat, for example. So I'm thinking about, like, this is an aerobic workout as I'm looking at this. Like, it's 95-65 for the sumo deadlift high pull because of the unfamiliarity with the movement. You might be experiencing some movement breakdown in terms of like, I can't physically come to this load. But from
here, when it comes to a sumo deadlift high pull, and this is, when people look at barbell loadings, it's really easy. You look at stuff and you go, that's light, moderate, heavy. And those are kind of the classifications or designations we would give to a prescribed loading. However, that light, moderate, heavy is respective to like each movement pattern. So 95 pounds for a deadlift would be light.
Yes.
95 pounds for a shoulder to overhead would be light. 95 pounds for a sumo deadlift high pull is moderate.
Yeah.
It's like the top end sumo deadlift high pull is like the most I would ever. So I probably wouldn't program for an affiliate at 135, but that's about the heaviest you would at that point just do a power clean. But like 135 is like the heaviest you should ever program a sumo deadlift high pull. If you see a workout where it's like sumo deadlift high pulls at anything heavier than 135, it's just do a power clean and you'll have a way better. Not that sumo deadlift high pull is a bad movement. It's just like because of the mechanics and the fact people don't do them as much, and it's so easy to turn it into a soup sandwich that it's like 65 to 75 pounds for male athletes would be light.
Yep.
And then 95, 65 is moderate. Like 115, 80 would be heavy.
65 to 75 pounds for male athletes is light for advanced athletes.
Right. For like a exactly. Yes.
Yes.
So we're looking at, as Sam's breaking things down, we're not only looking at a hinge, but it's a moderate load hinge.
Yeah.
And the thing that makes this workout so destructive is like, yes, if you're pacing things properly, this is going to have a pretty deep aerobic feel where you're deep in that burn, baby. But the thing that makes it so destructive is that, when it comes down to, breaking it down to like when I'm looking at it, I'm boiling it down to like just the major movement component, I guess. You have hip extension. And so like the primary driver of a sumo deadlift high pull is hip extension. Like, yes, we're hinging on the way down and it's a hinge on the way up, but it's got to be an explosive up or explosive hip extension to get the bar moving up. And you have an explosive hip extension to jump on whatever object you're jumping on. So the movement redundancy or interference of hip extension is what makes that like add that little bit of spice, that just little bit of smoked paprika into the blend.
A little bit of smoked paprika.
Yeah. So that adds a little bit of some spice there. So that's Monday.
As you look at this, what would you say is the target time domain for this workout?
I would say, I want to think to myself, 10 to 15 minutes.
10 to 15 minutes. Okay. Yeah. So what we're doing here is as he's presenting this information, this is a time priority workout. I am taking this information and I'm plugging it into an analysis calculator that I have on the back end. So hopefully as we peel this apart, we'll be able to flip screens and get a nice little assessment.
There you go. Boom. I like it.
All right.
We on a Tuesday?
On a Tuesday.
Cool. So Tuesday, we're getting aerobic here.
A little bit.
Yeah, just a tad. So I love to, when I'm looking at, programming a week, I might think about this different from some other people. Aerobic work is incredibly important, especially for like health and longevity, keeping your heart healthy, your energy systems healthy, metabolically healthy, and also making, not that intensity is the problem, but if you've got people, especially that are starting to be, they're not 20 years old anymore. If you're dropping the hammer 5 to 6 days per week, pretty quickly that's going to catch up and things are going to be beat up. So I add in I try to keep, as an overall pattern, like 1 to 2 more aerobic workouts, and that could be something like a 5K run, or it could be something intervals we have here, or it could be like today. Our workout at Tilt today is, I like to call it mixed modal aerobic work, where it's different movements, but your goal is to, I'm like, hey, we've got kettlebell swings and sit-ups and something else, but your pace should be like a 5K run. Like you're basically doing a 5K run with kettlebells and lunges and such. But today we've got a cool interval day. So you're going to go every 5 minutes for 7 rounds, 400-meter run, and then 1,000 or 800 meters on a bike erg for our male and female athletes respectively. So what I'm looking for and what makes this aerobic is, if you're an absolute ninja when it comes to, conditioning stuff and monostructural movement, and like you can hold 90-second 400s and, a minute 40-second splits on the bike,
Right.
You're garnering yourself a bit more rest, but you're also moving at a quicker pace. Most people were aiming to have somewhere between like 60 to 90 seconds of rest each round before they start the next one. So it's basically a new round starts at the 400 every 5 minutes. So it's a 35-minute aerobic piece. So we're working on pacing. I'm trying to get people to keep their splits relatively the same. So what I mean by that is, unless you're an elite endurance athlete, you probably can't nail it where your, 400-meter run is a 134.2 every single time you run one because you've got it dialed. But I'm trying to keep people like within a 5-second window. So if you run your first 400 at like a minute 40, you're trying to keep everything from there on is under a minute 45. We're trying to get that pace dialed in. And for most people, that means backing off a little bit, because
especially at the front end.
Especially at the front end, because we know round one, you're feeling good. You've just done your warm-up round. You went and did your deep break in the bathroom. You're feeling light. And you're like, let's get some. You start that 400 and you crush it. You run it a minute 30 seconds. You get on the bike. You're like, yeah, getting this thing. You start crushing it on the bike. You bump your damper up a little bit because you're like, I can get some power out of this thing. You're going. You finish and you're like, holy shit. Okay, that was really hard at the end there. Oh, and I have 60 seconds and I have to go again.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to, prevent the oh fuck moment that happens at the end of round one when you've gone too hard. And if you've done CrossFit for longer than 5 minutes, you know what that feeling feels like.
Oh, yeah.
So it might be bringing the run distance down, might be bringing the bike distance down, or both, depending on people's capacity. It's not about the distance. It's about the stimulus. And I want people to be able to hold the same paces on their run and bike continuously for all 7 rounds, so that they get that adaptation that I'm looking for in terms of repeated aerobic output. So, if people aren't able to run, we can always substitute another erg in there if we got like an injury or something going on. But if they can run, even if that's a 100-meter run, like I'd like people to run, because running, similar to how box jumps are a unique stimulus, and step ups aren't a great scaling option for box jumps because it's not a jump.
Right.
It's if we're substituting, there's not much that can substitute for a run in terms of the metabolic demand that it has on your body. So if we can, I'd like people to, we can reduce the distance to whatever it is. And then from there, any injuries we can kind of take case by case and figure out what will work for them. But how are we feeling about Tuesday, Sam?
I mean, I like it. I like things like this. So I'm a big fan of having focused aerobic work. I think that it's a miss if people are just like, like if this was 7 rounds for time, different fucking ball game. I like having that do a thing, rest a bit, do a thing, rest a bit. And so the work, like the focus of the work is not the task, it's setting the pace and remaining consistent in the task, in the execution of the task. And so, for my people who want to be fast, it's like, cool. Your goal now is not to be fast once and to see where the fall off is. Your goal is to have there be no fall off. And so what do you set your first round at? I think that's a good game to play. I'm also a big fan of like you could approach this from like a zone 2 perspective or a zone 3 perspective and get a little bit of built-in rest. And there's some really, really good data out there that suggests that developing zone 2, zone 3 aerobic capacity above and beyond that of your peers in your age group is like a 5-fold reduction in all-cause mortality risk.
Yep.
Exactly. So like, don't ignore that stuff.
Yeah. Basically, it's like doing your cardio makes you immortal. Boom.
Pretty much. Yep.
Yeah. So it's good stuff, and it's for that reason that like and different gyms have different. We've talked about there could be gyms that are more competitive, gyms that are more lifestyle, and everywhere in between. For
Yep.
us, we are very much so a lifestyle gym, and like we're here to, I said, the Wall Fam crew likes to put on the war paint just because they like to throw down,
Yep.
but here to, live a happier, healthier, and longer life. They're not here to try and go to the CrossFit Games or go to quarterfinals or, that's not the goal.
Yep.
So, that's why I try and keep, the 1 to 2 days of, aerobic work or just more monostructural stuff, whether it be mixed modal or interval or something like this, once or twice a week because of that. It's like this will, number one, lower any risk or incidence of injury going on there because it makes it so you're not under load, for a day or two per week, which, is a welcomed reprieve for your body.
Yes,
But
it is.
it also, allows them to move their energy systems. I heard it. I'm not sure where I heard this quote, but I sat there. I thought about it for a second, and it required like the buffering signal up here. I was like, it was. I can't remember where I heard it for the life of me, but it was that fitness is built or capacity is built in zone 2 and 3, and it's expressed in zone 4 and 5.
Oh, that's a good one.
That makes sense.
I think it does, and I feel like I've heard that or something similar.
Okay, not that crazy. Jesus.
This sounds like for whatever reason I'm getting like Adrian Conway vibes in my head.
Because it might have been like an Instagram post or an Instagram story or I still don't know what threads are, but it could have been something like that. Like he just wrote
Could
it
have been
down.
a thread. It's Instagram, Twitter is what it is.
Okay,
that's threads.
That's what I figured. Anyway, so I heard that and I was like, that's pretty, because not that you don't get fitter. Like if you do a workout, if you're like, hey, I'm gonna do Helen today, you're probably gonna end up in like zone 4 or 5 because that thing's just like a gas pedal hits the floor type deal. You're gonna end up there just by the nature of the workout.
Yes.
But it's like, the bigger your aerobic base is, just period, full stop, the bigger your aerobic base is, the larger platform you have to then develop more capacities. I mean, we talked about this when we talked about the hierarchy for development of an athlete. It was like you have nutrition, then that next one is metabolic conditioning. And then everything else builds on from there. And so I sat there when I saw that, and it might have been an Adrian thing, it might have been somewhere else, but it's like capacity is built in zone 2 or 3, and then it's expressed in 4 or 5. I was like I sat there, so I was like, wow.
Yeah.
All right, I like that. It's a good one.
All right, let's go to Wednesday.
Cool.
So 4-time 100 box step ups, standard height 24 and 20, 100 push-ups, and 10 squat snatches at 185 and 135. I would hope that you're not power snatching 185 and 135, but who knows? This is like, just looking at this, my reaction is, I don't care what you snatch, you're not fit enough to snatch this RX. Like, I can imagine saying this to someone in my brain. And what I mean by that is let's say you've got the capacity to squat snatch, and if you're going to do 10 reps at 185, I would hope that you've got like a 200 plus snatch minimum. So like, you don't get to play ball unless you know you can snatch 215 or 225. Then there's all the fucking pre-fatigue. And it's
poodle, baby.
Oh, there's so much like 100 box step ups. Most people would look at 100 box step ups and be like, that's not a big deal. Maybe it's not until you try to snatch.
A bunch of people probably, and I can already hear it. I'd like people looking at this workout and be like, step ups, stupid. Why box jumps? Like, let's just do 100 box jumps. Seems better. It's like, I don't think you understand the effect that's going to have on your body. Like your fucking booty and hamstrings and quads, everything legs wise, can be pretty cooked. And then from your push-ups, as long as you're not letting your push-ups turn into a soup sandwich, you do like a kipping worm push-up type deal.
Midline,
and it's the shoulders, man. Now I remember, so I put this one together, and it was kind of like a nod to, we did one way back in like 2018 or so at CrossFit One Nation. It was like old hand plan something, and
Yeah.
it was a run. I think it was 1,000-meter run, 50 push-ups, and then some amount of snatches. And I can't remember what the snatch weight was at. It was heavier than 135. I remember that, but it's somewhere between the range of like 165 and 205, somewhere in that range. And at the time I was like, I had good snatch capacity. I can do that.
Yeah.
And like do that in a workout, not after push-ups. You can't.
Nope.
And it was like, I'm pretty sure I missed my first 3 forward because your shoulders don't know how to, press back and lock out when your pecs and shoulders are super pumped up, and your triceps don't want to lock out, so you catch with soft elbows. And the combination of step ups and push ups will mess with your snatch.
What do you think is the time domain for this?
Oh man, you're probably looking at like 8 to 12 minutes, maybe.
You think?
Yeah, I think so. 8 to 12 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm basically going, I can kind of like brace. So I'm basically going on the assumption. I kind of like try and round things out as like an average over time.
Sure.
So usually start to work out faster, and then things, die off as fatigue catches up. So I'm basically on the assumption of like 20 reps a minute. So if you're doing like 20 step ups a minute, 20 push ups a minute, and then your 10 snatches, that would leave you somewhere in that. People can do it faster. That'll leave you somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So maybe it's 10 to 13 minutes.
I think it could get away from. I think the first half is more easily quantified, or the first 2/3 is more easily quantified than the last bit.
Yeah.
I think
that's
like
from people.
Yeah, like you would want to, like, I'm trying to think of how I would run this, because like you're trying to get people to understand how fucked they're going to be at the end of it, right? And so like, how would I lay out my progressions, and how would I, because you want it to be illustrative, you want it to be educational when it's not dangerous, right?
Right.
So how am I going to set that up so that they get clearly and without a doubt that this is not the snatch workout they think it's going to be? Yep. And like, maybe it's something like, I have you do like.
So I'd love to see where your head's at here, because I know exactly what I'm going to do for my classes. So I'd love to tell me what you're going to do, and then we'll compare.
I would probably, as an example, it would be like, hold a 1-minute plank, do 15 push-ups, now grab an empty barbell and sit in the bottom of an overhead squat. And like, just feel what that feels like, you know? And all of that muscle fatigue, all of that lactic acid buildup, and that's not counting like the devastation that's going to happen in the lower half of the body. Because for me, I'm thinking like, sure, your box step ups are going to mess up your ability to launch from the floor, but that's like, I get to mid hip and I drop the bar because I know I'm not going to get under it. Yeah. For me, the sketchier part with the athlete is what's going to happen when they get it most of the way over the head, and they're totally fatigued, and now they've got to bail and something like that. So that would be the thing that I would think about. You said what you're going to do.
Yeah. So the way I'm going to go about it is like, essentially, I like to, as I'm going through class, kind of like, every once in a while, I kind of do warm-up rounds where it's either like, if it's a set weight, like for today, we're doing kettlebell swings, you don't need to grab out 4 kettlebells and kind of like load them up. You can do like maybe a warm-up kettlebell, and then so I get people kind of like get to their workout weight kettlebell, and then we go through like a couple mini rounds of the workout. Just kind of like, hey guys, here's what the flow is going to feel like. Here's a little taste of how we're going to be going through this one, and how this workout's going to make your body feel. And then at the end, I'm like, hey guys, if that felt shitty, small voice in the back of your brain, that's that little boy in the back of the Simpsons bus that goes, I'm in danger. Like, let's adjust something. We can bring the reps down on something, the load down on something. Let's make a change happen and set you up for success. And at that point, bathroom break, drink break, take a couple minutes, and then a couple people like, hey, so I'm pretty fucked up after that warm-up round. What should I do? And I'm like, all right, well, you're gonna load the weight here, bring the reps over here, and you'll be good to go. And they're like, all right, I happen. And then they're good to go, and then they execute the workout, and it's brilliant. It's like that's the whole purpose of the warm-up round, the primer pieces. And for those that think like, doing one workout in 60 minutes not enough, that gets them that there's your extra volume, baby, that everybody wants is right there. So but during something where it's like barbell loaded and it's heavier, could be like a clean, could be a snatch, whatever it is, I'll kind of blend their loading up and their warm-up rounds into one piece. And so it'll be like, hey guys, we're going to go. So let's, for this example, hey, we're going to do 10 step-ups, 10 push-ups, 5 snatches with the empty bar, for an example. And then we're going to go through 4 jumps, add a bit of weight on the bar. 10 step-ups, 10 push-ups, 5 snatches. You can bring the snatches down as the weight goes up, but the goal would be to have them kind of feeling some step-ups, some push-ups. And there's sometimes I do an aggressive one where I'll be like, hey guys, last warm-up round, here's what we're going to do. You're going to give me 20 step-ups and 20 push-ups. And then and people go, well, it's so many push-ups. And I'm like, listen, you need to feel how fucked up you're going to be after these push-ups, man. We're not going to undershoot it. Like, and I'll sometimes like barter. They're like, oh, like it's 20 push-ups. I got to save my bullets. Then you don't have enough bullets. Do your push-up box, bro. Like if you're concerned about this number of push-ups, then we need to adjust something. But
reduce the lever.
This warm-up round is going to be really hard. Okay, I'm going to give you guys an extra 2.5 minutes for a bathroom break. We'll take a 5-minute break before we go to make sure you are ready to rock. I'll come over there, massage your shoulders, whatever it needs to be. But we're going to do this round so you can make a good life choice, and then we can execute this workout properly.
Awesome.
So don't be afraid to push your people, but it'd probably be like step up, push up, snatch, and then add load over the course of some rounds so that they can feel that. And this is, of course, after going through a really thorough barbell warm-up, overhead warm-up, squat warm-ups that they're primed, ready to rock. They're as comfy as humanly possible in that bottom of a snatch.
Absolutely.
Again, trying to set them up for success for that training piece that day. But that's definitely I told someone about this workout. I was like, yeah, this is I'm really excited for this workout. And they were like, only 10 snatches? And I was like,
sucker.
You don't know what's about to happen here. I was like, I've seen this. I know how it ends.
You missed all right. Well, so you could say the same thing about Heavy Helen, which is another great thing to come on the heels of this, right? So 3 rounds for time, 400-meter run with the kettlebell, by the way. That's brutal. Yep. 21 kettlebell swings at 70 pounds for the guys and 53 for the ladies, and then 12 strict pull-ups. Oh, strict heavy Helen.
I was like, because there's Heavy Helen. I almost kind of like named it Strength Bias Helen because I think that's more fitting. Because you basically strength biased everything. You strength biased the run and the swing and the pull-up.
I disagree with the assertion that adding load to a run makes it a strength bias.
Well, okay. You get what I'm saying.
I do though.
God damn it.
All right, so
yeah, heavy Helen. I love this. There's a bunch of different variations of Helen. It's phenomenal. It'll also be kind of cool because I was thinking as I was writing this, I'm like, well, the CrossFit Games. So, it's always fun in and around like games season to chuck like former events or like nods to events in there. So we have not on Monday this coming week, so the 31st of July, we have a nod to the event from the Ruck Run from the 2019 games. It's 4 800s, but each 800, the first one is normal. You run it just you, yourself, and you. Each 800 after that, you pick up a plate of increasing load, and you carry it. So it goes 800-meter run, 800-meter run with a 25-pound plate, 800-meter run with a 35-pound plate, 800-meter run with a 45-pound plate. So, and that's the workouts for time. 2 miles, baby. So it's shorter than the ruck run they did at the games. It's lighter than the last 1 or 2 rucks they did at the games. So it's a more appropriate affiliate version, but that's kind of a nod to that event. we needed a good running day, and so I was like, oh, we're getting around game season, so we have that
Wow.
one in there. I have so when they were like announced that we're going to do Helen, I was
Yeah.
like, I'll program a variation of Helen. Like,
There you
who
go.
knows? This exact version might pop up at the games. Who knows?
Oh,
And then a couple weekends from now, I've got programmed on a Saturday, Nasty Nancy from the 2020 games. Remember that workout?
yes.
It's
Ugh.
5 rounds, 500-meter run, 15 overhead squats at 185 or 125, and then 15 bar facing burpees.
Woof. Yeah.
You put that up on the whiteboard, guys. Time to beat Matt Fraser, 1832. Get some.
Jesus. 1832.
Yeah, man, it was insane watching this video do that. It was ridiculous. So because I was so convinced, because me and Lachlan did it. They announced it, and then me
Yeah.
and Lachlan did it, and we finished like in the mid-20s. We were somewhere
Yeah.
like 25 to 27. He was like 25 something. I was like 26 and something. And so, and we were both at like the peak of our fitness at that point.
Right.
And so we were like making predictions. People were like, "Oh, how'd it go? How do you think games people are going to do?" I was like, somewhere like 20 minutes and change. And someone's
Yeah.
like, "Someone will do this under 20." And I was like, I don't see anyone do it. Like, we're good runners. We're good at over. Like, we're
Yep.
good at over squats. Like, I don't see any. Like, they could probably do the burpees and the run a little bit quicker. It's like, but we did all of our overhead squats unbroken. I'm like,
Yeah, but you're both pretty lanky cats too.
well, true. So I'm like, someone could do that faster, but I'm like, I don't think anyone's doing. I'm like, a 4-minute round on this is like, you fucking cooking. Like,
Yeah.
like we were
With a purpose.
5 minutes around, and we're like, so shave 1 minute off per round. Like, that's. I was like, I don't think people are going to be going sub 20. I think you're going to see times at the games like somewhere between like 20 and like 21 and a half was my guess.
Yep.
And there were 2 athletes that went sub 20, and I was like, fuck. And it was Fraser and fuck, I can't remember. It
Yeah.
was like Fraser was like 18 and a half, and this other dude was like 19 and a half.
Yeah.
And there was a couple ladies that went sub 20. I was like, damn, you all are so fucking fit.
I really like this workout. I especially like the grip fatigue factor, which
Yeah.
if you've done Helen, you know. And it's only getting worse with the run, like how you going to hold it, how you going to mount it on your body.
Shoulder.
I think, I mean, ideally, yes. And then you're banging your skull against it as you're running.
Give it a bear hug.
No, that's even worse.
Hold it by the horns of the kettlebell handle and just hold it
Out
like
in front?
No, I was just gonna say a gun rack, like just bicep pump. You finish your 12 sit pull-ups and you're like, I want more of a bicep pump.
Well, so here's the deal: is like, I have a standard for the execution of the strict pull-up, right?
100% do. Yeah,
So
I've spurned people off a pull-up bar for not hitting that standard.
I can see in my fever dream imagination a bevy of strict pull-ups.
Oh yeah,
where, you know,
little mini kip at the bottom where you like
little just a little bit, you know.
It's what you call like, oh, I'm like re-engaging my shoulders, but it basically turns into you're like at the bottom you're like, ha-cha.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of movement that like gets you going.
Yep.
And then maybe like a little knee pop at the top.
Little knee tuck. Yep.
Little knee tuck, little heel to butt action. Did a little heel kick in midair or a butt kick in midair to just kind of get that chin over the bar.
Woof.
It gets me with a strict pull up, and I've harped on this the past few times we've done strict pull ups in class. Is like you're getting up to the top and you do one of these. You like reach your
chin reach. Yep.
I got it. I'm like, no, you didn't. You're still here. Strict pull up. Like you got to get your chin over the bar without giving yourself a fucking whiplash trying to get your chin level with the bar. So I'm like, hey guys, if we got to use a band, like keep your chin, neutral.
Yeah. See, at that point, I would, and this is only because of the group that I work with. Like, this is one of those things where I would not allow you to use a band. if you were in my class and I was running this workout, I would not allow you to use a band for the strict
I know
pull-up.
what you would do. You would do the bar and the rack deal, the leg assisted, right?
You could do it. That's one variation. Another one is I would do pronated press down ring rows.
Oh God.
Yeah. So for anybody who's wondering what the hell I'm talking about, so your standard ring row, I've got a palm here, I pull like this, and then I come back out, and I've got this big arched chest the whole time, right?
Yeah.
So if you hop up to the pull-up bar, nobody goes and grabs the pull-up bar like this, right? You put your palms on like this, right? So you do the same thing with the rings, so pronated grip, and it allows me to get the athletes to keep a hollow position the entire time so the legs stay nice and extended. It makes it very clear if they kip with their hips and like pop themselves up, right? And so as they press down, they get to, and I call it a press down because you're not just pulling, right? You're pressing down into the rings the entire time with that aggressive grip. And so it's way more grip intensive, it's way more lat intensive, and there's a lot more carryover for the actual strict pull-up. And because you're on the set of rings, if it's too easy, you just bump your feet forward and make it more difficult. It's devastatingly effective.
Remind me to never take one of your pull-up classes. Jesus.
So the problem is everyone's like, fuck ring rows. I don't want to do ring rows. And I'll say this a million times. Nobody is too fit for a ring row.
Yeah, nobody. Not a single person is too fit for a ring row. Ring rows are terrible.
They're great.
I mean, they're amazing. But they're so hard if you're doing them properly. You know. I was going to say something. I was really back and forth on this one with my heavy Helen thing. Like I wanted to add the kettlebell to the run because I enjoy human suffering. And I think that's fun.
Sure.
Heavy kettlebell swing, all about it. And it's like there's been a couple different variations of Helen where I've seen it done with chest to bar pull-ups. So basically kind of like upping the ante. But I'm like, the number of reps is so low. And not that it's a problem, but I'm like, we could really get something out of a strict pull-up in terms of like a grip and like fatigue thing. Like if you're going through strict pull-ups, like now your upper back is fatigued in a different way than it would be with kipping pull-ups for then the next round or the following round of kettlebell swings.
Absolutely.
So, I went with strict pull-ups. I think is a good move. I like this workout. It's a good one.
You think like 10 plus minutes for this?
Yeah, for Helen, we're trying to get people somewhere like 8 to 12, so probably bumping that up a bit. Probably looking more like 10 to 15 minutes.
That's what I thought too.
Or maybe 12 to 16 minutes, somewhere like just a hair higher than the to account for the adding the 70-pound kettlebell on the run, because that will slow that 400 down significantly. So I'd say so.
Sweet.
Cool.
Go ahead and scroll up a little bit. Give me a view. Keep going.
Oh, so sorry.
And then.
Get you. Boom.
Okay, cool.
So here we go. We've got.
I read this automatically. So Friday, 15 or 12 cals. I read it as 15 or 12 cal row, because why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah. So I just put as calories because sometimes people are like, I like to use the bike. We've got some psychopaths here. There's a couple psychopaths at our gym in Sudbury that are like, so yesterday, you'd be proud of this one. We did 19.1.
Yeah.
Best CrossFit open workout ever, period, full stop. And so we had one of our members, Max, comes in and he goes, I'm like, yeah, guys, 19 calorie row or 19 wall balls, 19 calorie row. And I was like, if physically can row, I'd like us to, because it's a unique stimulus. If we have an injury going on there that we need to be on the bike, all good. Like we'll get that squared away. And Max comes over and he goes, and Max is a good rower, but he comes over, he goes, can I do this on the Echo bike? And I was like, yes, you can. Absolutely. 1,000% you can. No givesies, backsies. And so,
right.
And so he sat there and he's like, all right, great, cool. And he likes using the Echo bike for some of our interval type stuff, and
sure.
Whatever. So
it's a great machine.
Great machine. He hops on for the warm up bits, and we basically I left. So for those of you that haven't done 19.1, stop whatever you're doing, go get a medicine ball and go do it.
Right.
But it's such a high intensity workout. There's something so special about like a wall ball or a thruster plus rowing combo that's just the most devastating thing in the entire world.
Yeah.
And so basically my warm up was super kind of compact, shorter, is more targeted. It's like I was like, we're literally just gonna like ramp up row pacing, and I'm gonna guide you through the whole thing, ramp up row pacing, and just go through some warm, like basically do some row pacing and then some squat mobility stuff, like loosen up the hips, loosen up the legs a little bit, and then some more row pacing, and then we're gonna start squatting with the medicine ball, and then row pacing, and then working with some wall ball efficiency stuff. So like by the end of the general warm up, we've rowed, we've wall balled, it's warm. Went through a primer piece. It's like kind of meant to spike your heart rate. So you kind of like feel that like, oh crap moment. You get the oh crap moment where your heart rate jumps and you go, oh God.
Yes.
You get that moment done with in the warm-ups. And when you do the workout, that moment doesn't happen. Your body's like, all right, we've already been in the pain locker. This isn't new. We're good to go.
Yep.
So we go through that whole thing, and like basically to leave 15 minutes after, like the workout ended so each class runs on a half hour. The workout ended at 5:15 for the 4:30 class. If like class is done in 45 minutes. But then what I did from there, I'm like, you guys just sent yourself to the fucking moon. We're gonna cool things down. Like cool down crew forever. I'm all about it. Try and work cool down stuff in as much as humanly possible in my classes, because it's important for people that they come in, they train real hard, and they go and sit for 8 hours. So we did. I was like, so obviously the workout on the rower, but I had all the bikes out in a different section, and I was like, as soon as you finish, I'm gonna give you 90 seconds to flop around on the floor and feel sorry for yourself. We're gonna hop onto the Concept 2 bikes, damper at 0, and we're just gonna spin 5 minutes, mandatory. Keep the blood flowing so it flushes stuff out, and then we did a 2-minute couch stretch each side, and then like a little region stretch each side, just kind of like again loosen up the musculature we needed. So you had people feeling pretty decent on the way out, but when it comes down to like I have to put in like just calories, because people like to use different machines sometimes. They're like, like I don't like rowing, and I'm like, that's cool. I want you to crush yourself. So use a machine that you feel confident with. So this workout on Friday is a 20-minute EMOM. We're going back to monostructural stuff. On the first minute, 15 or 12 calories on a machine of your choosing. On the second minute, 15 burpees. And we're going to go back and forth, baby, 10 rounds.
Aerobic capacity devastation.
For anyone that thinks that burpees aren't a monostructural movement, can fight me.
Monostructural. I want to dig in on this real quick. Do me a favor, scroll up real quick. I want to reassess something.
How do you want me to see the whole week?
Just the top half of the. I'm just looking at. Okay, yeah. Tuesday was really what I want to double check. Okay, cool. Thank you. So, burpees. You could make the case that a burpee is a cyclical movement, and as such, therefore, it is monostructural. However, we do not think of it like that. We classify it as a gymnastics movement, which is, I don't know, it's a miss. I don't know. Like, there are a lot of ways to look at this.
Tell people like, hey, it's a gymnastic movement that you should be able to do monostructurally.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, that's if we're doing burpees properly, it's not do 5, then take 30 seconds to feel sorry for yourself and like you're huffing and puffing. You should be, whether that's adding steps in on the way back, on the way up, somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Like burpees should be done at like a continuous pace, and whatever, then you adjust the reps to make that happen. So it's like if 15 burpees a minute too much, rather than explode your life doing 15, then you got to get back on that machine. Again,
right.
This is aerobic work today.
Yeah.
It's as like kind of a back and forth in EMOM style, but you should be able to finish whatever your calories and burpees are in like roughly like 40 to 45 seconds. So you have like a 15-second transition going into the next thing.
Brutal.
And so it keeps the like time window pretty short and pretty tight, but you got to be confident pacing that road. Like do 10 calories, do 10 and 10, still devastating. Like
it's a great workout.
At the end of it, you've done 100 calories and 100 burpees. Like that, you will not be any less fit. But it's about the pacing. It's about the stimulus that this is going to give you. It should be the way this workout should feel is like the first 3 rounds feel fine. And then it just escalates little by little each round. So like rounds, 8, 9, 10 are like
holding on for dear life.
Yeah, pretty much. So, but your pace hasn't, like, you're holding on for dear life, but you're still, 40 to 45 seconds on each movement, maybe like 47 seconds on each movement.
Right.
Your splits in time should still be the same or similar as you're going through. And it's just like the feeling that escalates is just because, like you said, you're hanging on for dear life those last couple rounds, but keeping the same pace. If you're like hanging on for dear life and you've fallen off the minute pace, then we've missed something there.
I think that this is one of those workouts where it's like, if you're questioning what's going on, like stop talking, stop thinking, just do it. Like this is a classic, I don't want to think, I just want to move kind of workout. And I think that, I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of like how to adjust the scaling, how to dial it in for an individual, what the focus should be. It's not a strength bias movement. It's not push-ups. You want this to be, you want your body to move effectively nonstop for 20 minutes. And so you've got to pick a pace and a number that allows you to do so.
Yep.
Classic little aerobic piece.
Yeah.
I'm being distracted. I'm full disclosure. I'm being completely distracted by Saturday's workout. So Saturday, 3 rounds with a partner.
Yep.
1,500 meter row, 30 box jump overs, 45 toe to bar, split work as desired. And so like in my brain, I'm running through like rep schemes. Like how are we going to split? What do we want the field to be like? How are we going to do the transition so that like one person coming off the box goes in one direction, the other person comes in right behind them. I think that this is, so we've got hinge / leg extension and a pull, hinge and jump, or another hip extension and a jump, and then
hip flexion,
just like fuck tons of hip flexion. And I could see like non-virtuous toe to bar versus virtuous toe to bar and how that would express itself in fatigue. Yeah.
Yep. Makes that you get off those toes to bar, 45 between 2 people. One person's going to do one more toes to bar. It's fine. You can fight over who wants to be fitter that day.
For sure.
And then you get back on that rower.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's also why I put like the Friday like as just calories, because people can see the whole week of programming ahead of time. Like we post it in the app like a week ahead, so people can like look at things, and people get jazzed about it and start talking about whatever they want to do. So because it's a row, if people would like to do something different on Friday, they want to bike. If someone's really psychopathic and they want to ski,
right.
Dude. Just get a gnarly tricep pump the entire time. Whoa.
Wow.
Great.
So partner workouts are always interesting, especially where they're allowed to split the work, because, and especially when you left, like you pick a number like 1,500 meters on a rower. Yep. If you're smart, you end up swapping like every 250.
Yep.
And so you get like a 1-to-1 work to rest. It's not super terrible in terms of like how long you're working. And you can get a pretty good clip without crushing yourself or without dogging it. So I look at that. I mean, you should be able to maintain, ideally. Do you have a scaling option for the females, or is just 1,500 meters across the board?
1,500 meters, because we can do mixed teams.
Right.
If we had a pair of, I wouldn't even say a pair of 2 females. If you had a pair of people that just, rowing's not their jam, they're just not quite haven't built up that capacity yet, then you could drop
1,250.
Well, yeah, I would say 1,200 meters. Yeah.
Okay. So then looking at that, like you would want to keep them to under 6 minutes, for every one of those, right? Like super aggressive might be like closer to 5, but like that's a 150 pace for, or even faster than that. If you did like a 150 pace for every one of those 250 intervals, I think that would get you there. So let's call it 6 minutes a pop, 30 box jump overs. You get a little bit of time for transition, 90 seconds. Yep. That's what I was thinking. 45 toe to bar. This is where things are going to fall apart, I think, to a certain extent. Because you're going to reach a limit in terms of what your capacity is. And so like one person is probably going to have a little bit more work than the other person. Maybe 90 seconds to 2 minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say when I was planning this one, like trying to keep the toes to bar like right around 2 minutes or less. Ideally, they're using a range of motion or an option like a scaling option that would allow them to like repeat sets of 10.
Ideally,
so like your athletes are basically trading 10s, and one person does an extra set of 5, or
right.
However you guys want to break that up. So yeah, you're basically like kind of trading 10s back and forth. So that should be, somewhere in like the 90 second to 2 minute range.
Yep.
Accounting for, transitions on and off the bar, got to chalk your hands 7 times. So yeah, so you're probably looking at, we go 6 minutes, 7, 8, probably looking at like roughly 10 minutes around.
Yeah. Every bit of 30 minutes of work. Yep, for sure.
It is different though, because this is the third workout this week that is longer in terms of time domain, but the way it's going to feel for each athlete, because you're doing like a work to rest, going to feel more like a sprint, because you're pushing the pace on the rower, you're going fast on the box jump overs and kind of cycling through those because you're trading back. You might do like like I might do 10, you do 10, I do 5, you do 5, or we trade 15s, whatever it is, relatively small set, so the pace is fast. And then on the toes to bar, again, you're trading off short sets, then you're back to kind of like your sprint distances on the row. So even though it's 30 minutes of total work,
right,
it's 15 minutes of work per athlete. Is going to feel more metabolic and more like a sprint. This is not the steady state aerobic work that we've already done twice this week. This is getting a little bit more of a sprint feel. It's just going to be a longer, sweatier. We tend to like to keep things kind of like long, sweaty, like some partner style stuff on Saturdays. It's just fun with the community. People seem to like it. So like every couple weeks we chuck a partner workout in there. So, even though anyone at home has got their notepad out and they're like training, programming tracker and analyzer, and they're like, it's the third long workout this week. I'm like, it is. It 1000% is. However, it's going to feel very different. And the goal for our coaches, when we do our coaches meetings, like with our full-time staff, and we have a section, like the majority of that meeting is going over programming and stuff.
Yeah.
And I lead that section for the group. And I try my best to give people like, hey, like not only is this the workout, but this is the intended stimulus. It should take this long. It should feel like this. And here's how I want you guys to have your athletes execute it. To again, try and pull the lever of things we can manipulate to optimize their longevity, their health, prevent injuries. It's like, hey guys, even though the workout today is this, I want you to have your athletes execute it like this. Like, sure, you can take any workout on this sheet of paper that we just, these 6 workouts that we just went through, and you can crush yourself, like fully broken on every single one of them. You can make this real bad. You could take Friday, the 15 and 15 back and forth, make each one of those a sprint. Fuck yourself up. Do 15 calories in 30 seconds, do 15 burpees in 30 seconds. You're going to be ruined by the end of that 20 minutes and have nothing for like the next 4 days to give. So, that's the majority of the thing is like, looking at movement patterns and loading ranges and rep ranges and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But also like, as I'm giving it to them in the meeting, is like, hey, this is how long it should take. This is what the loading should be. Like it should be, light, moderate, heavy. They should be able to repeat sets of whatever. And this is how it should feel. It should be more aerobic. It should be more of a sprint. It should feel, like it should be a more muscular feeling instead of like an out of breathy feeling. And so trying to describe those feelings, something that you can kind of like direct your athletes towards, because then they know. It's like if you're giving a workout and I'm like, hey guys, this one, it also kind of preps them, because sometimes people are looking for, hey, CrossFit's supposed to kick you in the teeth every time. And I'm like, so I'll sometimes say to people like, hey guys, today's workout is going to feel way more muscle burny than preppy, and that's okay. Yeah. Like that's the intended stimulus for today, is for it to be more of a muscular overload feel than a metabolic punch in the teeth kind of feel.
Right.
So, and that can help direct people in the right direction.
So because just to be mindful of time, do you have a Sunday workout here?
No, Sundays I just program, like I just chuck it in the sheet, and it's just like active recovery stuff. It's just like
awesome.
Just some
awesome
ability.
So this is a nice week all told, right? So what I want to do now is I want to flip the script, and I want to put you in the hot seat just a little bit. So we're going to share screen. We're going to share a tab. We're going to share the programming analysis tab.
Do it.
Right. So what I've got here, if you have taken your level 2, right, this should look familiar. This is essentially it's a digitized version of the programming analysis worksheet from the level 2, right? What I've done is and don't mind the dates, like the dates were arbitrary. I've taken all of the pieces and I've created spots for all of them. And then because it's so popular, I've also added pieces to quantify additional work, whether it was a strength and a Metcon or if additional skill work was programmed. You don't have any of that, so we don't got to worry about that. And what you're up against, pardon me, is a week of or a month of CAP programming from, So what'll be interesting, it's so like I could show you the month, right? But it's almost better, in my opinion, to just arbitrarily pick, like, let's pick a week and pick a week and see what we end up with.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do, my device is out of recording and my recordings have stopped. What the fuck? I don't know. We'll figure that out some other time.
Still has the live sticker, so we're still going.
We're still going. That's cool. So I'm going to delete everything from column I over in the CAP program. And then we'll come over, delete, boom, go bye-bye. And then over here we have group totals for everything. Boop, like that. So program 1 and program 2. Program 1 is that week of CAP. Program 2 is your week at Tilt, right?
Yes.
So we could compare the differences, right, in terms of like, what do we see, more of or less of program to program? That really doesn't matter as much in a short-term comparison. So I would want to see more examples of, like, I would want to see a month of Tilt programming for that to be relevant. Yeah. What is more relevant for me is your variance counter. So the variance counter here is these two columns, right? So 0 is good in the sense that, like, what this thing is doing is it's looking at the other sheet and it's counting the number of zeros that appear here, right? Yeah. So in a month or in a week, if you've got lots of zeros, i.e. you are missing lots of options that could have been put in, it tells me you do not have a sufficiently varied program. So like golf, a lower score is better. Across your modalities, right, you only missed like one thing. There was like lightweight weightlifting in both cases. Time domains, you missed 2 time domains. CAP for this week missed 3 time domains. They had more that particular week. They had more of that middle to long range, and they had 2 heavy days. You had no heavy days, like express heavy days, and you had no short workouts, 5 minutes or less, that kind of thing. Rep schemes, we had no low reps, probably because we had no heavy days. Your volume range skewed toward middle and high volumes. No chippers or things like that. You were couplets and triplets the whole time. Task and time priority, I don't have a counter for those things. So we have, compared to what do you call it, compared to cap for that week, you have a more varied program in terms of what we saw for gymnastics movements. We have a less varied program in terms of what we saw for weightlifting movements, and I think partly owed to the fact that we don't have an express heavy day. You had slightly better spread in terms of what was being counted for monostructural movements, and we didn't have any additional skill work. So what this tells me, right, the only thing that I'm concerned about is the volume, right? So if I look back at your sheet,
Yep.
and I come up here, we skew, you like 3 days in a row, you end up with some high volume work. And that's not a bad thing. Like every once in a while, you're going to end up doing something like that. I think that if you're looking to be able to provide, what's nice about this is like no matter what, if you get a person who comes in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and another person who comes in Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, they're going to get roughly the same expression, right?
Yep.
So that is really nice. Could you break it up a little bit more? Like if you had Wednesday be like a heavy lift day, probably.
So I will say that, like, you know, as I'm varying things and the way things sometimes kind of like fit together, as I'm putting things, my brain's weird. Sometimes I'm programming. I'm like, and this can go Monday, and then on Saturday I'll put this, and then I see I like this workout. Let's plug it in over here. Well, then what gap am I going to fit there? Well, maybe Saturday would be better up here. So like I shuffle things around. It's a mess as I'm putting it together. But the week prior to the one that we've just looked at, we've got a heavy day Monday, and then I'm calling it a heavy day. It's I program sometimes stuff like for quality, where it's like there's some heavy stuff and some higher skill stuff. So it's like kind of like it's a strength focused. You might get a little bit out of breath as you're moving through it, but it's like a strength focused day. They were kind of like two what I'll lump into a heavy day bucket the week prior. So we did a little bit more of kind of like higher volume, more monostructural stuff the following week to kind of like, again, over the course of a few weeks, kind of like balance things out, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, I think that, I mean, all told, you know, and this is, if we're going to do a true programming analysis, I'd want to see a month. But all told, you got a nice mix of things. You've got a mix of different movement functions. You've got, you're not overburdening your athletes. And so like to my comment about like, these are technically all middle to high volume workouts, you're not overburdening your athlete by also doing a strength piece beforehand and just like smashing them with more fucking volume.
We make sure that the way we run classes is we make sure there's like a robust and thorough warm up. I always add in some type of, especially on like those weeks, like I know that week is a little bit on the higher volume side. So, you know, I write my lesson plans for me personally well in advance as well. Like, you know, I have a framework of what I'm going to do. And then as I'm going through, like if people are like, oh man, I'm feeling beat up here, I'm feeling beat up there, like I can kind of tweak my lesson plans as I need to. And so, but it gives me like a little bit more of a foundation or like or a starting point to go from. And so on weeks where it's maybe a little bit more higher volume, like I'll add in more like cool down and mobility type stuff the last, you know, 5 to 10 minutes of class. Like I said yesterday, Wednesday, like I left 15 minutes for like a really targeted and thorough cool down, because 19.1 just beats you up and takes your lunch money. So like all, you know, and this comes back to what we've talked about before, whereas like people mistake programming for coaching and stuff. It's like what's on the sheet is that. If I were to just write Monday through Friday on the whiteboards, because we got like whiteboards going across the gym. If I were Monday through Friday across the board and just say, all right, guys, have at it, they'd probably be messed up by Tuesday because they're CrossFitters, they go bonkers, they don't know how to take their foot off the gas pedal. So that's my job. Is like, hey, this workout should feel like this, and I'm going to add in the appropriate like warm up and mobility stuff to kind of prep, and the appropriate cool down mobility stuff to kind of like cool down. So it's not just like, hey, go do heavy Helen, fuck yourself up. And then go down for 8 hours and come back tomorrow.
Amazing.
So, good stuff. I appreciate the analysis bit, like the sheet.
Hey man, my pleasure. Anytime you want to, and I can share this with you and give you access to it, and you can kind of plug and play and like do fun stuff. For anyone who watched this, if you got all the way through all 1 hour and 14 minutes of this, if this is something you're interested in, reach out, send me a DM or something like that. I'd love to be able to just provide you with clarity in terms of what you think is happening versus what is actually happening.
Yeah, reach out, figure it out. Let's do a thing.
Absolutely.
Ninja programming for all your programming needs.
There you go. All right, I gotta go hang out with the baby.
Stuff.
I gotta go do dad stuff. So thanks for this, man. This was a lot of fun.
Always. Ton of fun.
All right, my homie. Have a great rest of your day.
You as well.
All right. Bye, everybody.